It feels like forever since I've been able to come up here and talk about Uncle from Another World. Episode 8 has arrived. It's been around for a little bit here, but Netflix decided to be Netflix and not release subtitles on time like they used to for the show. So we had to wait for some kind soul to translate or do something so we could understand the episode if we didn't know Japanese. Now, the subs that are currently available, they were translated using the manga, so it used the official manga pages in order to basically put dialogue with the scenes that the anime's playing, and some people hate that, but honestly, it worked with Komi, it's working for episode 8 here. They're fine, like, I don't feel the need to rewatch with official subs or anything. I completely understood what was happening on screen, and it's not like it was thrown into Google Translate and machine translated, which are the horrible subs. The manga subs are always completely fine, in my opinion, so you don't have to wait, in my opinion. You can if you want, but I didn't. I skimmed it. It seemed fine. I watched it. Full live reaction available on the Patreon. It completely made sense to me, and it was an absolute quality treat of a return. And seriously, in some ways, I kind of wish this was the last episode we got of Uncle from Another World before the break, because episode 7 ends with like the hero party, right? That's more or less how episode 7 ends, and episode 8, it just feels like it would have been a better stopping point. Yes, there's the cliffhanger with them turning into like dinosaurs, and the sounds they were making at the end was absolutely hilarious, but I think that would have been a much more natural stopping point had they had to wait like they initially did. I'm not going to go over the same info. If you want to know why this show ended up taking such a break midway through episode 7's review, it's in the Uncle from Another World playlist. I break it down. It's basically, it all falls on the production committee being shitty, not the studio. And you can see throughout this episode that it's still, there's production issues, like there's inconsistencies with the character designs, but the thing is Uncle is a comedy series, so the change in art style isn't as drastic as something if you're watching something serious, right? If you're watching an Attack on Titan where, you know, you start seeing a lot more lopsided faces, you're gonna notice that more than in a show like Uncle, where the characters are already changing their art style to be shocked and just make the viewers laugh. So it's not really that noticeable. You can if you really pay attention, but not in the way that it ruins the episode. And there's actually some pretty fun action at the end of this episode that was really well polished. I love the effects, the way the ice attack was being used. It actually moved like tentacles, but it was hitting like a knife or something. It was just some cool stuff happening, and just some of the best jokes that I can remember from this show. Granted, I haven't rewatched Uncle in some time. I remember most of the key details and a lot of the key jokes, but I mean, from the slaps to just the erasing the memory so the hero party can have a more memorable experience, how do you not like bust out laughing being like, this is why we love Uncle, this is why we were so disappointed that we had to wait for more Uncle? And honestly, I could have waited as long as needed, as long as I could at least get a finished episode, and a finished episode is what I got. I'm not saying that it could have maybe used a couple extra minutes in the oven, but it still feels like a well-refined, very memorable episode. And I think what's really great is that it actually has a very human element towards Uncle that you don't really get to see. Like, in all honesty, I might say this is probably his most human moment from what we've seen through his little Uncle TV tube, because there's a moment at the very end when they're done with the cave and they got their little staff reward. He was about to erase his memories, or basically him from their memories, so that it would have just been them who did the reward. And he actually stops himself and he smiles on the walk away. And I thought that was really sweet, because it doesn't take away from Uncle being a goofball. It doesn't take away from Uncle being who we know he is. But it was actually a very human moment, and I really enjoyed that little detail, because prior to that, I mean, he was just a goofy bastard, man. He was like, he just takes them through the cave, here's the rewards, throws in his face, oh, that's not very good, erases their memory, drags them hogtie style, just the fact that he just kept doing it over and over until he thought it was a memorable experience. I thought it was just amazing, right? Because these are three who you look at and say, how the hell are they the official heroes of this world, right? Because Uncle, from what we've seen, is the one who's OP, but he's an orc from everyone's point of view. So it's really cool to see how more or less his actions are then being rewarded, and they're taking the credit, being like, I don't even remember, we had our memories erased, but apparently we're the ones who did it. And it's really interesting to see his footprint and how he leaves that footprint around the entire world, but no one truly knows the craziness that does go on with him. When it came to that whole scene inside the building where the slap started, I thought he transformed into his dad, but apparently it was his sensei. Just the fact that he argued like he knew how to like win an argument, but all the argument was him like rabbling, just saying sounds like there's no words there, and he just keeps slapping. As soon as the woman jumped in front, I knew right then and there that was going to be a Cosmo moment. That equal rights were how he felt, and she got slapped too. And I'm like, this show is no goddamn chill. And then when Mabel came in, the fact that she was so like headstrong, so intimidating to them melting into a puddle of goo, it's just awesome. And I actually found myself really liking the other two really like in this episode more than usual. Like, it's not to say Takafumi or his love interest are like bad characters. I've always complimented them. But I thought a lot of their reactions to the stuff this episode was a little more funnier than what I remember. But then again, it could have just been that I haven't seen the show in a little bit, so it's a lot more fresh than I'm used to. Just because it's been a few months since I've been able to watch this show. So the fact that, you know, they're just having these moments like, oh my god, she's a need on her high horse because she now has a job, she's on the payroll. There's just a lot of funny moments, and I like the almost like bobblehead big mode. If you've ever played a video game where you have big head mode where the head's extra large but the body's still relatively normal, that's kind of how a lot of the character designs over the course of this episode felt, and it was really amusing and just kind of felt like the best of Uncle, right? It just, you know, we were seeing more of his life, seeing more of the human elements to his life after being treated as an orc for most of it from what we've seen, while just having a lot of slapstick comedy moments that made you say, this is why we were so disappointed that it went on a break, but why we're so glad it finally has returned to us, and hopefully we won't have anything else happen. Fingers crossed the production committee didn't release this sooner than they could, because I swear to god, if we get to like episode 10 or 11 and we have to wait like a goddamn year for the final episode, that would be such a level of disrespect that Uncle did not deserve. And honestly, it was a great return to an episode. It was comedy gold, but that's kind of what I was expecting. But it makes me let out a sigh of relief that I can say I was still a little worried that when it did come back there'd be a lot more glaring production issues, but honestly it just felt like a hilarious episode of Uncle from Another World that has me even more eager to see where the future of the show can go. I think by giving Uncle a more human element in this episode while remaining to be just as oblivious to social cues, the fact that he was so awkward when trying to have a conversation prior to his transformation, and Takafumi's like just giddy like a little schoolgirl being like, this is the cliche, you know, this horrible discrimination, this is where the hero comes in and saves the day. And then here's Uncle just fumbling his words, not knowing what he's doing. It's just those types of scenes, they just write themselves, but it never fails to make me laugh, man, to just see where this show goes, and I'm always excited for more. Now, I don't know where next episode's gonna go. I don't even think there was a preview to the next episode, but I mean, I usually don't watch previews to begin with, but I'm excited, man. I mean, you end with them transformed into beasts because our boy decided to anger the spirits by being demanding, being like, chop, chop, let me use your magic, and it'll be fun to see where they go with that little gimmick and the other types of gimmicks that will pop up to make us laugh along the way. But thoughts yourself. It's been a hot minute since Uncle has last seen, you know, anime subs, that is. So let me know what you thought down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you're new around here. Like I mentioned, full live reaction available on the Patreon. You can also get video shoutouts, a bunch of fun things if you're interested, so do check that out. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.